about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOC-DALI. So we talk about everything on the show. No judgment. It's, a lot of what you guys think, other people think too. I don't want you to think you're alone. And so the one thing I'm picking up on is between Passover and Easter, there's a lot of anxiety. Whether it's because you have to see in-laws, whether it's because you have to pray, whether it's because you have to be in church or you have to be in temple, or it's because you had to give something up for Lent or give something up during Passover. It's not easy. We talk about this during Christmas and Hanukkah time where it's I love the holidays. It's my favorite time of year with all the lights and Santa and dreidels and menorahs. I love, the winter holidays, but for some, it is very anxiety producing, if you're alone, if you lost a loved one. And so it reminds you of how you enjoyed that with the loved one. And it's not easy. And so I'm Jewish. And so we're right now in the midst of Passover. And I always feel guilty during Passover because I don't like celebrating it. I love being Jewish. It's not easy. You're reminded of the slavery and the killing and the murder and the rapes and the brutalization of Israelites, during the Pharaoh Ramses time, them having to flee and your ancestors, struggling, and you're here today because of what they suffered from. So you feel awful, absolutely awful. And then it's important to do that. It is. You need to, not ignore your past. But then on top of that, you can't have bread. Okay. And which I do support. I support Passover, and I think it needs to be done. But I just don't like it. And I feel guilty because I'm like, well, if I'm a Jew, I'm supposed to like all the holidays. And no, you're supposed to honor them. But they aren't really likable. Like Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the Day of Atonement where you're supposed to fast for about 26 hours, no food, no water, and reflect on your sins and make up with anybody who's your enemy. How do you enjoy that? It's not very enjoyable. You got to do it, and you do it because you should do it. But, if those of us who are baby boomers and Gen X who are more religious than the millennials and Gen Zs, find a way to cope, we're going to be losing a lot of the younger generations with religion as we are, because they're like, well, that's just too hard. It's too much work, or it's too expensive, or it's too difficult to do. Not eating bread. I don't eat a lot of carbs, but in order for me to be able to poop, I have a system of what I eat in the morning, and I understand if you have medical conditions or if you're old, or a baby, you don't have to follow the rules. But I'm still going to follow the rules because I feel blessed to be able to still do what I do. But for the truth of the matter is I'm going to be really, really grumpy because I'm not going to be able to go to the bathroom for about a week. Okay. And matzah, I'll show you guys if you've never seen it. It is a very geometrically sharp cracker that just cuts into you. It's a miserable thing. But we eat it because when the Israelites finally got a reprieve to leave before Ramses II changed their mind, they didn't have time to make their bread, and so it never had a chance to rise or leaven. So most of their bread were like this cracker, flaky, disgusting kind of thing. And so that's why we eat it. And we don't eat anything with yeast to ensure, to honor what our loved ones went through and remind us of that time. So look, religion is not supposed to be easy. Okay. Religion is not supposed to be fun. Christianity is not just about Santa Claus. Judaism is not just about a dreidel and a matzah ball. All right. When these holidays, see, they call them holidays. So people are thinking, well, holidays like, New Year's and fireworks and holidays just mean it's a day of observance. And maybe we could observe it kind of fun. Maybe we can't. And I was really lucky. We went to our in-laws and they made an amazing Seder. They made it as amazing as possible. And it was delicious. It was great. It was good for the family to be together. But, a lot of people don't do well with these holidays. And I've like a lot of people did not sacrifice something for Lent. Yeah, it's hard to do that, for weeks on end. And look at the Muslims during Ramadan, where they have to fast throughout the day and then eat at night. But I'll always pick the side of doing it because I think it's the least I could do for God and everything he's done. But the truth of the matter is many of us are anxious about it. And when there's a holiday, we're like, oh, no, it's the holidays. Oh, no. And I see this all the time. When you would think in the olden days, it was like, oh, yes, good. It's the holidays coming up. We're going to get together. We're going to celebrate. We're going to, whatever. And community. Maybe it's because people are anti-people. Maybe it's because people are anti-change. The reason why these holidays happen is because we're supposed to be doing things different than we do on other, in Passover, we have the 4 questions. Why are we eating matzah instead of bread? Why are we reclining? Why are we, eating the, bitter herbs and, following the same, but why are we doing this? Because it's different. We're supposed to be not doing the same old, because then we forget our faith and we forget where we came from. We forget our roots and we forget to thank God. But I don't want you to feel bad if you feel guilty. And I'm not a pastor. Talk to your rabbi or priest or sheik or, whomever guides you spiritually. For those of you going, gosh, I just don't like that. You're not alone. And maybe it's because nobody has allowed us to express that. I was always fearful of telling people, oh, gosh, really, I don't like the holidays. I was always fearful of saying that because I thought I would be excommunicated or, I would go to hell or whatever. But if you actually are honest about what you are concerned about, you could then honor it and honor the holiday and honor your religion in another way. So, hang in there. It's important. It's going to be a rough week for me. Honestly, I really need some carbs, but I'll tell you how it goes. 1-877 Doc Daliah, don't go away.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell our listeners who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me join you to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now and find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. If you think you deserve compensation, call now to find out how much you qualify for. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Hot Shot Secret Stiction Eliminator.
Stiction, that sticky friction, undermines the performance of diesel engines. Third-party ASTM testing verifies that Stiction Eliminator removes 2 times as much stiction than any alternative on the retail shelf. Stiction Eliminator is formulated to be left in the engine oil. It works as you drive.
Available at truck stops, Tractor Supply, O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and online at HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret. Powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube. Click like and subscribe. So I know a lot of you don't like me for saying this, but there is one pharmaceutical class that I love, and it's the statin drugs. I think the statin drugs for lowering cholesterol is phenomenal. None of my patients died of a heart attack who were taking statins. There's only one person who I wasn't really taking care of that died, but he wasn't on a statin. And then my father died of a heart attack. He wasn't on a statin. So I'm not saying as long as you're on a statin, you don't die of a heart attack. You know, we all still meet our maker eventually. But these statin drugs are a godsend. Now, sometimes these statin drugs, like your rosuvastatin, atorvastatin, pravastatin, or brand name, Lipitor, Crestor, not in that order. Crestor is rosuvastatin, Lipitor, atorvastatin, and then Pravachol or Mevacor, although I don't really see a lot of people use Mevacor, Zocor, Simvastatin. The reason why these medications are so amazing is they're HMG-CoA reductase inhibitors. They prevent your cholesterol from making the cholesterol and the bad LDL. And we talked about LDL and HDL, where LDL brings much needed cholesterol to your tissues in the body. But if you have too much of it, it's like Amazon boxes. They just start to pile up. And you need HDL, which is the sanitation department or the garbage trucks, to pick it up and bring it back to the liver to get disposed of. That's why you want to have plenty of HDL. So, because if you have too little HDL and too much LDL, you get clogging. And like Amazon boxes, you can't get anything done. You can't go in and out. And then what happens with your blood flow? So these statins are fantastic. They also help with the plaque, making the plaque less breakable. Because if the plaquing of your arteries is very friable, pieces break off. It could tear the lining of the artery. Now you need your clotting factors to stop any bleed. And now you end up completely blocking that artery because there's not a lot of room for clotting factors and floating plaques and things like that. Not to mention your stroke risk. So these statin medications, and I'm not in bed with any pharmaceutical companies. I don't care what statin you're on. I think these statins are absolutely fantastic. Now, there's still caveats. You need to keep an eye on your liver. If you're having pain when you take them, it could cause muscle injury because your muscle makes cholesterol too. So you have sadly some individuals that might not be able to do well. But one of my listeners was complaining that the statin was doing so well and then their cholesterol still rose, so they had to have a second medication. And that second medication was ezetimibe, or ezetimibe. That is your Zetia. Now, Zetia works on the brush border. It's not a statin. It works on the brush border of your in small intestines. And helps break down and affect the lipid absorption, trying to keep it more in your system. And Zetia has very low side effects. And so there's a study that came out, a meta-analysis of 108,353 patients in 14 studies who were at very high risk of suffering a heart attack and stroke, or who had already suffered a heart attack or stroke. This was published in the Mayo Clinic Proceedings. And they say if you combine Zetia with your statin or ezetimibe, you can reduce your LDL drastically. There was a significant reduction, 19%, in the risk of death of any cause, 16% reduction in deaths from cardiovascular causes, and a significant reduction in the incidence of major adverse cardiovascular events or stroke by 18% and 17% respectively. That's good. They say the combination therapy also significantly reduced LDL levels by an extra 13 milligrams per deciliter, as opposed to just what the statins could do. And so I've written Zetia with statins for a while. I'm very comfortable with that combination. And so it's reminding people that you might be on a medication and might not be enough. That's why you still need to get your blood work done. Don't just get refills online. Make sure you're still doing your blood work so they could see that it's working. I'd also recommend scanning of the heart and a cardiologist. If you have high cholesterol, I think everybody should be seen by a cardiologist and get your heart tested. Look at the arteries, whether it's a CT calcium score, whether it's a stress test, whether it's an echo, cardiogram. But if you have high cholesterol, you're at higher risk for heart disease. If you have diabetes, you're even at higher risk for heart disease. So you should all be checked out by a cardiologist. I don't want to go because they might find something wrong. Well, that's the point. Okay, we need to find it early. You don't want to be like my dad, where he's only in his 60s and he drops dead of a heart attack with no warning. Can't watch his grandkids grow up. So this is it's an interesting study, but it basically reinforces what I've talked about. Apparently, according to the Global Burden of Disease and the American Heart Association, deaths occurring as a result of high LDL alone are highest in Eastern Europe and Central Asia. 4.5 million deaths worldwide attributed to it in 2020. So cardiovascular disease is still the number one killer. Now, we have more drugs coming around the bend. So Eli Lilly is apparently working on a cholesterol medication or a LDL lowering cholesterol medication that works at a genetic level. And this is interesting. So elevated LPA, which is lipoprotein A, cannot be modified with lifestyle changes if you have the genetic form. And they say it's one of the last untreatable frontiers of cardiovascular risk. This is being reported by Cleveland Clinic and Fox News. Now, there's research that is showing that Eli Lilly has come up with an experimental drug called lepodisiran. And lepodisiran, if I'm pronouncing that right, can silence the main gene responsible for synthesizing this LPA. Now, there are other experimental gene therapies, that they're working on, but these findings were published in the New England Journal of Medicine. They were presented at the annual meeting of the American College of Cardiology. And these lipoprotein A levels were evaluated in 20 to 25% of people worldwide, which is about 64 million people in the United States, 1.4 billion people globally. And they say this LPA shares similarities with another lipoprotein that doctors target, such as your LDL, your low-density lipoprotein, or bad cholesterol. Now, this lipoprotein A, though, that they want to attack is more prone to plaque buildup and clots than LDL. So while we're attacking LDL so beautifully with our statins and our Zetia, we are missing another form. And so if Eli Lilly does have success with this drug, this could absolutely be life-changing. So, diet, exercise, weight loss could help decrease LDL levels. But for the doctors say this doesn't necessarily affect the LPA levels. And we don't have any medications to lower LPA. Now, is this most individuals with high cholesterol, or is it just a select few? I don't know. I don't know how many people have more of an LDL issue versus an LPA. However, when I was in training, my very first day on the coronary care unit, I was a young intern just starting out, and I was discharging somebody with his medications, and I did not give him a statin. Statins were kind of new at the time. And the doctor yelled at me, "Why aren't you putting him on a statin?" I go, "His cholesterol is only 170. It's way below the 200 mark. His LDL isn't bad." But the doctor was yelling, going, he had a heart attack. Okay, he was in the CCU for a reason. You got to put him on a statin. And I keep remembering, I go, but his cholesterol was lower. Maybe it was the LPA and not the LDL. So I got yelled at a lot in training, but I did a good job. I became a great doctor. I didn't, I might not have liked the yelling at first, but boy, did I learn. And so, we think we know it all. We think we've identified everything and we know exactly what people have, and we're taking our best guess, but the science is always evolving. And there have been people who have had heart attacks where their cholesterol wasn't that bad. Now, my father's cholesterol wasn't that bad, but he still didn't want to take any Lipitor or statin. He's like, "Oh, it's going to hurt my liver. Leave me alone. It's going to hurt my liver." And I'm like, "You're going to have the healthiest liver in the cemetery. Who cares? Take it and prevent your heart attack risk." He wouldn't do it. He died of a heart attack. But I remember his numbers weren't that bad. But when you have diabetes, I think it almost triples, in essence, like dog years. I think it triples your risk. because diabetes and the sugar, it's so sugary, and you just have more of a chance to calcify your arteries when you're diabetic. And that's why I think he died, unless he also had this LPA issue. Because I remember his cholesterol was not that bad for him to have a heart attack. The only thing that could have done it is he was married to my mom. No, okay, just kidding. He always said, you'd be the death of me. And she's like, I don't. Anyway, but anyway, it's not easy living with my mom. But maybe he was one of these LPA patients. So talk to your medical provider about it. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Lisa Wolf here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you. And be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
All right. Well, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So there's various reports of earthquake strength. One says San Diego just incurred a 3.5 earthquake. Then another one said 5.2. And then now we have a report that it was a 6.0 magnitude quake, but they got downgraded to a 5.2. So this earthquake was reported at 10:08 in the morning with an epicenter 2.5 miles from Julian in San Diego County. I just checked on my friend who lives out there. She said the dogs were barking like crazy but so far everything okay, no injuries. But the earthquake was felt across San Diego, as well as several areas of Los Angeles, Riverside, San Bernardino counties, including Seal Beach, Claremont, Rancho Cucamonga, Pasadena, Riverside, Temecula, Downey, and Monterey Park. Thus far, we are not hearing of any reports or damage from this earthquake, but still a 5.2, if that's what now they're reporting it to be, can still cause some significant damage. So authorities are continuing to monitor the situation. We also want to make sure that there's not going to be aftershocks, or was this the calm before the storm and a bigger one is coming? I don't know if we're having more earthquakes than not. I know California gets hit with earthquakes pretty often. I've felt earthquakes in Las Vegas years ago when I lived in Reno, Nevada. But obviously, California is located closer to the major fault lines, especially the San Andreas Fault that runs through it. That can, has been predicted to cause the big one soon. We've been watching over the past 10, 20 years. We saw the earthquake in Japan causing a tsunami and the Fukushima disaster, New Zealand, Chile. So the fourth corner of that Pacific would be our Pacific Northwest. And so it has been postulated that there's going to be some big earthquake activity. I know Alaska is now fearing a volcano that's supposed to be erupting soon. So it's definitely a crazy time. But I can't say for sure if we're having more earthquakes or not. I know we have better equipment. We're detecting them. We're reporting them more. I mean, when California had earthquakes, when I was younger, it's like, all right, now that's another earthquake. Let's move on. But now it's, everything gets reported, everything gets talked about. So it might appear like there's more. But then again, we do need to kind of keep our our fence is up and our defense is up, because if this is kind of the start of something that could cause the big one, we need to be ready. So we'll keep you posted on that. Also this weekend, a man accused of breaking into and setting fire to Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro's residence has been arrested. Now, Governor Josh Shapiro was Jewish. They that night had their Seder, which was Saturday night. They went to bed, went to sleep, and the governor, his wife Lori, their 4 children, dogs, and other family members were at the house at the time when Cody Balmer, 38 years old, tried to destroy the house. And he even admitted, he turned himself into police, but he even admitted he wanted to hit the governor with a hammer. Now, fortunately, all the family was able to get out and evacuate in time, but it's just disgusting to see this type of thing happen. So Cody Balmer turned himself into police, has been held on charges of attempted murder, aggravated arson, terrorism, and other charges. As of Monday morning, he was receiving treatment at a hospital following a medical event not connected to this incident or his arrest. So, yeah, we're thinking there's mental health issues. CNN is reporting, but we don't have any more data on him. But he was very casual and relaxed, according to officials. And he admitted to setting fire using homemade Molotov cocktails he fashioned from lawnmower gasoline and beer bottles, according to an affidavit. These Molotov cocktails where you basically have alcohol, you stick a rag in them, you light them, and you throw them like an incinerator device. These are things that have been used for decades, used in wars. And, we talk about gun control. We need to control the guns, and we'll lower violence if we control the guns. If somebody wants to be violent, they're going to use whatever means they can, and they'll use legal, whether it's a legal gun, whether it's a legal knife, whether it's a legal vehicle. And so I'm of the mindset where we need to figure out how to address the mental illness and figure out safety measures. But like what happened with New Orleans, that person tries to mow down hundreds of people on Bourbon Street, not using a gun, but using a vehicle. We saw that during a Christmas Day parade a few years back. We saw that during, unfortunately, when people are sick in the head, they'll use whatever they can. So this is the latest instance of violence or threats against an American elected official. A prominent Democrat, 51-year-old Shapiro, was, I think if Kamala Harris picked him as vice president, they would have gone farther. Walt's a nice guy, but, Shapiro is very popular in Pennsylvania, and that would have probably helped them win Pennsylvania, which they needed. But he also has been floated as a potential presidential candidate. So I don't know what this person's beef was, what the motive was. But, look at how there's been 2 assassination attempts on Donald Trump. There was a plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Now, we don't know too much of how the fire broke down, but it looked like the family was woken by a pounding on the door. They said it took Balmer about an hour to walk from his Harrisburg home to the governor's residence. When he arrived, he hopped the fence surrounding the residence, broke 2 windows with a hammer, threw an incendiary device through one of the windows, started the fire, climbed in through the other to enter the home, and cameras caught all this, and then he threw a second Molotov cocktail. Then he began kicking a dining room door down, and then he fled the scene. So, idiot. I don't know what the hell he was doing, why he was doing this. I don't know if this was, if he was a radicalized terrorist, but it's, thank God the governor and his wife and the family are okay. I told you I had a house that burned down, and I was in the house when the fire happened. They said it was a faulty electrical cord that caught my grandmother. My grandmother would order clothes, mail order, and she would have them in packages and they would come in plastic, and they were sitting in a pile next to her lamp, and she lived with us because she was too ill to live on her own. And so there was this lamp, and they believed the lamp started the fire next to the plastic. And I remember going into her room to see the fire, and the smoke was just, feet thick. and the speed at which the smoke, the one thing I remember is how the waves of the smoke were so fast. And I mean, you see fire, you see it burn, you know fire moves fast, but I was just blown away by the speed. And then how the fire started to consume. So my father grabbed me. We left the house. I was barefoot, so I didn't have shoes. The house burned down. And it was frightening. We had to live in motels, start to rebuild. The insurance helped us, but not enough. And we fortunately got to a point where we could support ourselves again and do what we need to do. But it's frightening. And, to think that somebody would do something like that on purpose and try to hurt and kill. But we are surrounded by individuals who are sick in the head. You could call it mental illness. You could call it evil, taken over by a demon. But when somebody wants to cause death and destruction, right? We could try and diagnose them with antisocial personality or, but it's different. Somebody with schizophrenia can be as sweet and calm as can be. But you could have some people that have that and have severe mental illness. I don't like to give the diagnosis saying, well, they were bipolar, they were schizophrenic. I don't like to say that because it hurts those innocent people that struggle with schizophrenia, bipolar, etc. You have evil people. And some of these evil people may also have other issues. Like when, we hear about school shootings and they say, well, the kid was autistic. Autism doesn't make you a murderer. The person was evil. They might have had some other issues, including autism. But we have to be really, really careful about how we word that. 1-877 Dr. Daliah.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-910-7500. That's 800-910-7500. Call now to find out how much your case could be worth.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. Well, this is a horrible, horrible story. And this kind of would be another testament to how some people should not be parents. And I don't know how the hell they don't have maternal instinct or paternal instinct as it pertains to this. But this was tragic. Allegedly, Juliet Acosta, 26 years old, is a mom who was drunk driving, crashes the car into a canal. Her toddler daughter was in the car. While the car is sinking and her daughter is drowning, she allegedly flees, goes to a nearby hotel, and takes a shower. Her daughter, Reagan Herron, only 4 years old, dies. Police allege, according to Daily Mail, she was swerving her Subaru SUV all over the road, sideswiping a pole, then driving up an embankment and into the irrigation canal at about 11 p.m. Her uncle heard the crash in Hickman near Modesto, California, rescued Acosta from the car, but was unable to get the little girl. She was trapped in her car seat. Now, the mom, Acosta, allegedly fled the scene, went to a hotel room, and was found taking a bath, while her daughter remained in peril at the crash scene, according to police. Reagan was eventually pulled from the car by a California Highway Patrol officer with the help of Acosta's uncle, who I guess was, had been trying still desperately to get the girl out. Now, she was rushed to Memorial Medical Center in Modesto, but did not survive. So the mom was initially charged with felony DUI after she allegedly was found to be 3 times over the blood alcohol limit. She's also now charged with murder, vehicular manslaughter, driving under the influence of alcohol causing injury, and permitting the child to suffer under circumstances likely to cause great bodily injury or death. Now, she was rearrested and is being held without bail, faces life in prison if convicted of all charges. Her father, Clifford, not the uncle, but the father, was detained on suspicion of aiding her after the fact. Now, family and friends of Reagan's father, Gage Herron, have set up a fundraiser for the funeral, and they have made it clear that they are no way affiliated with the Acosta family. So I'm not sure if they had separated but just heartbreaking. They say any remaining money that has been donated after expenses will be donated back to the community on Reagan's behalf in hopes to prevent incidents like this from happening in the future. Now, Acosta's mother, Carrie Hicks Acosta, is the one that was arrested. And you look at this, a mom of a toddler. One, why is she drinking? Why is she getting drunk? Why is she driving her child at 11 p.m.? Why is she leaving her child? Now, I've taken care of patients who sadly were very, very addicted and were victims to alcohol and its addictive properties. But we need to, as society, protect these children. And we don't want to take kids away from their parents when they're good parents and they're doing their job. But somebody like this did not deserve to be a parent. And this poor little girl died. And, we see this all the time with, parents beating their kids, neglecting their kids. Is it that they're selfish? Is it that they're just stupid? Is it that they're lazy? Is it that they don't like their kids? You see, for me, my situation with my kids was pretty textbook. I get pregnant and I bond, and on purpose, and I'm bonding with them right away. Then when I gave birth to them, they were a piece of me. So I didn't want to be away from them. When I had to work, it killed me that they were at preschool or away from me. And it just, when my kids hurt, I hurt. There's just that bond. And the maternal feeling, I would take 1,000 bullets for them. Now, 1,001, no, but still, I would do anything for them. That's just how, and that's textbook, maternalism. But you don't really seem to see that with other people. Is it because the drugs? The maternal bond is probably one of the strongest bonds in human nature. We've seen women lift cars to protect their kids. Superhuman activity. What we do for our kids. Same thing with fathers. But the bond between a mom and her child is like nothing else you've seen on this planet. So then how the hell do you explain this California mom? And just alcohol? You would think she would have a bunch of drugs in her system to let her child drown and she go take a shower? She had to have been out of her mind. Completely out of her mind. And I'm sick and tired of hearing these cases of parents hurting their kids. These kids deserve better. Yet, you have parents who might not want their child to transition and undergo painful and possibly life-altering hormone changes, and those parents trying to protect their kids get their kids taken away from them. This doesn't make sense. So the only people that get their kids taken away from them are those that may have conservative values? Come on. It's a shame. And, I don't ever want to see a kid taken away from their mom or dad. That kid loves that mom and dad. But if that kid's in danger, there has to be separation. If that parent is not fit to take care of that child, they can't be in charge of that child. I mean, Biden wasn't fit to be president, and we let him still be president. I think everybody's afraid to step in, or everybody's afraid to say something. And it's, you hear of these parents drowning their kids. You hear of the, like either postpartum psychosis. I mean, it's not that unheard of that some parents want their kids out of their lives. But then we need to screen for that better. If we at all think somebody has that sort of mental illness or addictive capability, then we need to be doing very frequent checks on the baby, on the mom, offering support, making sure the family is recruited to keep an eye on mom. And I get it. Not sleeping, that could affect your brain. I get that. But this was just careless. Getting drunk, leaving your child to die. It's disgusting. And I think there's people out there that shouldn't have kids. Or if they do have kids, those kids need to be taken care of by people who love them. I'm really concerned about where society is going and a lot of people's priorities. We've really become more selfish, more anti-work, more anti, people don't even want to get married because they just don't want the work of a marriage. Or they don't want kids because they think it's too much work and too much money. Okay, I mean, if you don't want to have kids, don't have kids. I mean, that's your choice. But if you are going to have a child, for the love of God, you better treat them correctly and you better care for them. And I just don't know what the answer is. Now, you hear of parents, like the Gabby Petito case, where the boyfriend who allegedly killed her, how the families, will try to protect the accused. And that's not an easy situation. You love your child and your child does something wrong. And you don't want to be the one to call the police. Yeah, you don't want to, but you have to. Because you harboring them puts you in jail. And you are going to be no good to your child if you're in jail. And that's how you justify that. So if your child does something wrong or does something criminal, you trying to cover it up isn't the best thing for them. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH, don't go away.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.